Hopefully I'm joining you. Make sure I don't play with my phone all the time.
Hello everyone. We've still got some noise going on. Is that your phone, Susan? Is that your phone, Susan?
Right.
Oh, there we go. Done. Cool. Hello everyone. Hello and welcome to this this evening's live video. I'm joined by Susan Hogan, and we are going to talk all things Susan's story. Say hello in the comments. Let us know you're all here. Janet says, evening, Hayden, Susan. Hope you're both well. Yeah, very well. Yeah, so we're just going to talk all about Susan's journey and sort of where she started out on Amazon, where she plans to go on Amazon, and a few, obviously, a few questions from everyone in between. So how are you doing, Susan?
I'm doing really well, thank you. I'm sorry about that interruption to the technology. Was me trying to run it on my phone at the same time, but I've obviously got a satellite delay. so I'm good, thank you very much. Well into the swing of Q4.
Absolutely, yeah. It's I don't know if you see, but well, as everyone knows, because I keep asking questions, I've just had to go VAT registered at a really bad time. So my Q4 is a little bit messy at the moment, but we're getting there. So Janet says, yeah, evening, Hayden, Susan. Hope you're both well. Simon's here. Jed's here. It says evening. Ben's here. Evening both. Hello, everyone. Hello. So I think what we're going to do is just dive straight in with talking about sort of, you know, who you are and what you do, Susan, really.
Okay. Right. Well, I recognise a few names that are coming through. Certainly Janet. Janet's just down the road from me, and yeah, it's about 17 miles, I think, something like that. So I am, like all of you on here, an Amazon seller. I've been an Amazon seller for probably about 18 months. I've just, at the end of last month, finished my first year as a limited company. So I started off as a sole trader, like many of you probably still are, and then hit the VAT threshold quite quickly, and therefore there was the need to do something to defer it slightly. So I was recommended to become a limited company at that point in time, sort of reset the clock in terms of that. So I've been trading now for an actual year. It seems to have gone very quickly. I don't know whether you want me to tell you a little bit about my background and how I got into selling.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's all right, Hayden?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, let us know what you did before and sort of how you started getting into Amazon, I suppose. That'd be awesome.
Okay, well, I didn't have anything at all to do with Amazon. It's actually rather ironic that I did sell on eBay for a time, but it was a really long time ago. It was in 2009. I had about 6 months of playing with eBay, and I looked at Amazon at the time, and at that point in time I dismissed it and put it in the too hard column. So my background is actually as a professional marketer. I've actually had two careers. We'll come back to the first one because it's directly relevant to my Amazon journey. But I have worked in a business-to-business corporate role for a fair few years. And my most recent position was a new position that I moved into from a really great job that I had, which was a global role. I had a global role going all over the world, decided for whatever reason that I was going to change companies, and I ended up with British Steel. Sadly, it was at a point where they decided that they were going to make massive job cuts. So I actually only survived there for 3 months, and then that was me on the dole. So that was a really difficult thing because I'm being a senior person, you don't just walk into a new job. So that was 2 years ago, happened 2 years ago this month. And I didn't know what to do. My husband was very keen for me to get what he calls a proper job. And I did try to do that for about 3 or 4 months. That took me into the new year, and it was really clear that it was going to take forever. And I felt I needed to have something else to do. So I went back and started to look at Amazon. And very quickly, I decided that that was what I really wanted to do. So I started it. And unfortunately, at that point in time, my husband was very skeptical and very nervous because he's the opposite to me. I'm very much a risk taker, whereas he's very much a safe, comfort zone journeyman. So I said to him, like, I really want to give it a go. And he wanted me to get a proper job. So I promised I would try to prove it. So that was 18 months ago. And my first target, I suppose, was to try to replace the salary that I was earning. That was, for me, really important to demonstrate to my husband that it was actually a proper job rather than going back into the corporate world. I'm really pleased to say that I managed to do that within 3 or 4 months, literally. So I'm sure that many of you are just starting out and would want to understand how I could replace a senior marketer's salary within such a short time. So
we do want to know that. Hopefully we can dive straight in. If you wouldn't mind just asking to start, what strategy did you start on Amazon when you first started out?
I was going to do. So we go back to my very first career. I was in the hair and beauty industry for a number of years, and I decided that if I was going to sell stuff, that it was logical to me to sell something that I felt I knew a little bit about and that I was quite passionate about. So I actually approached 2 or 3 very, very large wholesale manufacturers, and was very fortunate that I got a break and they gave me an account. And so I almost exclusively did wholesale, which I didn't do any retail arbitrage. I had a little go at doing a bit of online arbitrage, and but fortunately for me, at that point in time, they had such an extensive range. These are global companies. They had such an extensive range of products that I was just striving to try to increase the range that I could sell. And some of the products sold very high volumes, and I just couldn't afford to buy them. I think I started with probably about 4 or 5 days worth of stock on the high sellers, and then I sort of built from there. And I was just talking to you about this. It's a very important thing. I am a massive risk taker. My husband is the leveler in that respect, but I didn't get very much from my redundancy, but I put all the money that I could into this. And I maxed my credit cards for the first 2 or 3 months as well. I bought as much as I could, paid off, thankfully. Yeah. And so quite quickly, I was in a position to, and also I might add that they actually gave me credit accounts. One of them has 90 days credit. And so I was able to build very, very quickly a credible turnover and a reasonable profit at that point in time.
Wow. So you dived straight into the deep end, really?
I did. And I've had it's a journey of 2 halves, really, because I was sitting extremely pretty with that. And this time last year, I'll be really honest, I wasn't doing an awful lot. I was just putting an order in every couple of weeks. But the volumes increased. So starting from this little office here, I think that I realised when the first pallet arrived quite quickly on that I needed to do something about it. And I saw that somebody had mentioned that they're very jealous of my unit. But I've only just got the unit. I packed for quite some time in here, made a decision quite early on that I wanted to do my own packing, and have stuck to that. And I got a small unit about 4 or 5 months in, and worked from there until this year. And then that got too small, and then I've bit the bullet and gone for a larger industrial unit, which I've outgrown already. I'll be really honest. So that was actually my life. So I'll be really honest, it was a little bit boring. that sounds awful to say that, because I wasn't really I didn't have to do an awful lot apart from packing. And then lockdown hit.
Yeah.
And most of the hair and beauty industry went into lockdown, and there was me putting really big orders in. So it was like business as usual for me. And the first month of lockdown was absolutely fantastic for me. I can't tell you how rewarding it was. But I actually went above the radar a little bit, and the long and the short of it resulted in my not being able to trade to that extent with a particular key supplier. So I had already anticipated that I had a high dependency on one or two suppliers. And I think it's the trap that we fall into. Certainly, if we find an income stream that's very convenient, I sort of didn't take my own advice, because I learned quite early on. I was determined I was going to go broad, not deep. And I was actually going deeper and deeper, more for one company. And then when they pulled the plug, it could have potentially been really bad. But because I'd started to anticipate it, I'd actually started to do a little bit of online arbitrage.
Okay.
And so when this happened, it was about April, earlier in the year. I was really lucky. I managed to maintain a certain level of sales, and I started to build back almost from the bottom upwards for things that I'd never done before. But I think I'm quite canny. I think I'm cheeky. So I do ask wholesale still a lot of the time as well. I ask for discounts. I push my luck. I'm constantly there trying to improve the relationship and to get as much as I can from my suppliers. I don't know if you've got any questions you want to ask me, Hayden, that are very specific. That sort of takes us to now, doesn't it, in terms of sort of the strategy?
Yeah, I mean, you sort of answered my next question. It was going to be sort of, how did you get into wholesale? But obviously you sort of went in straight away, didn't you?
Yeah, it was a natural thing for me, and remains so. I couldn't stand the idea of buying stuff that I really like, because I actually feel a connection to a lot of the things I buy. And I couldn't stand the idea that I couldn't get more of them when I wanted to. It really stressed me out. And I'm going to give you a really good example. I found a product that I bought from Online Arbitrage, probably only about 2 or 3 months in. It was coming up to the summer, so I was looking for summer type products. And I bought this product, and it was on a site that I could only buy 6 of them, but I had Buybot Pro as well at a very early stage, so I was able to peel back the layers and see that that particular item sold reasonably well. It got ridiculous. I was putting orders in for 6 products. I think I ended up getting 64 of them, so however many orders that is. And I thought, I can't stand this. This is really stressful. I'm gonna have to try and find a supplier for these products. So that's the sort of thing that I've done on quite a regular basis. If I've liked something, then I've tried to look at who's distributing it, so I can see if I can buy more of them. And that's how my wholesale model's built up.
Okay, cool. So did it
You've disappeared, Hayden. Okay.
Am I back? Am I okay? Yeah. Did it?
Yeah, you are.
Do you do any online arbitrage now?
I do. Well, because I lost my major wholesale income, and it's all about scalability. The thing is with online arbitrage, this is just my own feelings about it. I've experimented a little bit, being the risk taker. I've actually worked quite closely with VAs in the most recent past, and I've gone for it. I've just tested the waters with quite a lot of things, and I've come to the conclusion that I much prefer wholesale. And I think it's very, very difficult to scale your business solely with online arbitrage. And I apologize profusely if there's somebody who thinks differently to that, but from my own perspective, I can't buy it fast enough. And I think the use of VAs and the use of what I'd call vanilla online arbitrage is absolutely brilliant while you're building, but you do reach a point quite quickly Just to give you an example, my VAs were finding deals which were absolutely super deals, but you can only buy 5 or 6 of something. I'm not really interested in that level of detail. I'd rather have something that I could buy 200 of, 300 of, 400. And I'm in a very privileged position now after building that I've got sufficient cash flow, which is a really important element to build that, so that I could do that. I'd rather do that than my first couple of weeks with a VA. I can remember that one day between them, I have 2 that I work with, they found 14 different places for me to buy stuff, and they were all really good deals. So I thought, I don't have the time. I don't have the time to sit and go to 14 different places and analyze the deals and make sure that they're okay, and then you go to place the orders, and there's reasons why you can't order the volumes. Maybe that day they're only letting you order 6, or you can't get a slot if it's with a supermarket. Or does this sound familiar?
Yeah. I think you've picked up some great points. Just like I completely agree. It's just about learning, isn't it? Like learning, and loads of different ideas. And I don't know. I think online arbitrage is great, but I do think it's capped to a certain sort of turnover. It's not, but it is to a certain extent. I mean, the biggest seller I know is probably Luke Filer, doing just online arbitrage, and he's doing 60,000-70,000 a month, which is huge. I don't know anyone bigger than that, but that's big, and some people don't want to get any bigger, I suppose. But I do agree that wholesale is definitely the way to go if you're going to be really serious.
And I think Luke does use. He has purchasing managers, and he has a team of people, and this may seem a bit. I don't want to build an empire. I really don't. And I don't want to have lots and lots of people working for me. I want it to be something that I can do. I might relinquish elements of it, but I want to be able to do this from sitting in the comfort of a nice warm beach or something. And therefore, I have ambitions financially, but I don't have the same ambition as I might have had if I was 20 years younger, because I've sort of done all that.
So
I'm actually quite happy. Sorry, go on.
Is it just you in the business that does the majority?
No, I have people that work for me, but I still quite like that element of control. So I do have a team that do all my prepping, and I have part-timers that prep as well. So I've got 2 permanent members of staff, and I have temporary staff, but I still get reeled into it. And a lot of people would say, well, you shouldn't be doing that, Susan. But I actually really like it. I've been packing today. I've gone in. We've got some new, to me, products. I'm doing some unique bundles, and we're quite excited about it. And we actually, I don't know, we go in and we look and we decide how we're going to pack them and what they're going to look like. And I take a lot of pride in those sorts of things. So I will always be hands-on with those sorts of things. It's the creative side of me needs that outlet. I see that is it okay if I just answer a question, because it's seen it at the corner of my eye, and it's actually something that I think is quite important. Somebody was asking for any tips for approaching wholesalers that don't sell to Amazon and everything, and I was just talking to you before we went on about the smoke and mirrors. So having been in the corporate world, I've launched things in the past that seriously, we might not have actually had anything to launch, but by Christ, it was a really good launch. And sometimes you've got to walk the walk and talk the talk for people to feel that you're credible. And I think that's a really important thing, is to build up that credibility. And as I say, a little bit of smoke and mirrors. But I was just explaining to Hayden before we went on, I've just started doing merchant fulfilled, and I take enormous pride in the way that I pack things, and I've got professionally produced labels to put on the back, and I put things in them because we can do that with merchant fulfilled. So I've got postcards that I put in about things, and nobody knows that it's me in a little unit with a couple of other people, as far as I'm concerned, they must see a professional front. And I've done that from day one, from my first ever box. I've done that. Now, some of you might go, well, that's a really stupid thing to do. You know, I don't know why you do that. But, you know, when it comes to wholesalers and actually getting the relationships going with people that sell, you have to be professional. And I think it really helps if you've got something tangible. Now, for me, that's also having, and please don't go racing to my LinkedIn profile when I tell you it's a LinkedIn profile, because I'm not using it right now. But that is a really good way, potentially, of building a professional profile. It's in the business world. It's not on Facebook. Facebook's brilliant, but if you want to be taken seriously as a business, you have to act like a business. And businesses aren't really geared up for Facebook. It's more about LinkedIn. That's the platform. So you could build a really great profile that showcases your strengths. As I say, you've got to demonstrate that you're a credible and professional person, and that if they do business with you, it's all really good and they're going to make lots of sales from you. So I also did like a printed profile, which I've got as a PDF, so it can be digitally sent. And I've got a printed version, which I went through a whole branding process, because it's the nature of what I've always done. And I identified what I felt I wanted to achieve as a business, and what my values were, and my mission and vision, and all those things. So those are things that I've done that I share with people that I potentially want as partners. I think it really helps people see that you mean what you say, and that you are a professional person. And that's actually where I'm heading more and more. I'm sort of branching into private label.
Okay.
And I'm in the process of trademarking my brand. So I hope that I will actually be able to get an Amazon shop soon. I've been approved to the first couple of stages. It's going through we've got to hold it there. And if any of you go on there and say that you don't agree that with me doing this, I shall come round and put a bat up your pajamas or something. But so there's a period of time where people can say we don't like the idea of that. But such as it is, I'm sort of kind of hoping it'll be quite smooth. So sometime in the new year, I will actually have a trademark that I then will capitalise on in terms of shop and things.
Nice, very nice.
Sorry, everybody knows talk so much.
I don't know how you and Natalie got on. No, never mind the buy box.
Okay. I know. We were separated at birth, Natalie and I tell you.
Must have been a long night, long call. Where are we? So, looking back on the way that you started, all the risks that you took and everything like that, is there any big regrets that you had starting out, and anything that you would advise others not to do or to do? I think whilst I'm a risk taker in relation to, in other words, when I'm talking about risk, I meant that I sort of put a foot in the water. And maybe when I could ill afford to do so as well, I might add. So that's what I mean about being a risk taker. However, I'm a creative person that's also extremely analytical. So I haven't done anything without making sure that there was a reduction of risk to what I was doing. And then I suppose sometimes I could be a little bit sentimental about some of the product ranges, and I maybe perhaps should have got rid of some of them sooner than I needed to. Right. That's probably a regret, but I do think it's really, really important to have some means of reducing the risk when you're actually looking to buy things. So as I say, I came across BuyBot Pro very early on, and I think I've got grandfather rights to it, and it was a lot of money. It seemed like a lot of money when I was starting out, because of the nature of who I am, I had to have that. At the very least, I had to have something that would allow me to see how many sales I could potentially make and how many other people were selling. And I feel that
that's been quite invaluable. That and the keeper analysis have really helped. But just going back to the smoke and mirrors, because I think this isn't a regret, but I'm a very process driven person, and I put processes in place right from the off, probably painfully so. Right now, maybe a lot of people will feel, well, I'll just give it a go. We'll see what happens, because you have to do that with the Amazon end, don't you? Because it's an unknown quantity, so you've got to sort of try it on. However, when it comes to running your own business as a business, right from day one, there's quite a few things that you can put in place that will help you to professionally do that. And all right, I might have been over-egging it when I was only selling one thing. Now that I'm really up to my ears in it, the processes that I put in place have really come into their own, because I wouldn't have time to do those things now. And I really struggle sometimes to even manage some of the processes that I've already got going. So I would suggest take a really good look at your business right from day one, set out your stall, do the business plan, even if it's just a sort of in the air. And then what you can do is that when you start to develop the historic information, you can go back to it and say, look, I thought I might be doing this, and this is actually how it turned out. But do it now, especially if you're in a position to spend that time. It's money and time really well spent.
Enough of. Sorry to jump in there. Yeah, sorry. It's definitely something I don't do enough of. Is
nobody does.
Yeah, systems and stuff like that. Yeah. It's very few people that prioritize that over the instant money, isn't it? Which it's actually much more important, isn't it?
And I was very much the activist for many years. So I was one of these people that are like a bit of a bull in a china shop. I like, oh yeah, me, I'll volunteer, I'll go and do it. And I think age has brought some wisdom. I don't think it's completely gone. And I can give you a really good example of this. And if anybody ever does get the chance to see inside my warehouse, I have something that I bought, and I bought it. It was the first thing I ever bought to sell on Amazon. And I'll share with you what it is, because it's not something I've touched since. I'll tell you why. So it was a Transformer toy, and it was in and around, they was making a bit of a comeback, and I thought, oh, this sounds like it's a really good idea. So I bought 3 of them, and not knowing Amazon at the time, I put them in to sell. And in the time that it took for it to hit the listing, which of course, when you're early days, you're watching every waking moment of it, they disappeared. I thought, what's going on here? Anyways, they disappeared because before I noticed, they'd actually sold. I was like, wow, I can't believe this, my first thing. Anyway, so I went out on the strength of that, and I went and I bought 30 of them, and they weren't cheap. As I say, I didn't have that much money to start off with. And there they sat. So I was really lucky. I mean, they didn't sit, they seemed like they were sitting there forever, because obviously it was early days, and to buy 30 of something. And anyways, the long and the short of it was I recalled them, and I went rather shamefaced back to the supplier, and they gave me my money back, but I kept one, and I've got it, and I keep intending to put it in a frame and stick it up on the wall, just to remind me that, no matter what you think about something, you've just got to just take a step backwards slightly and actually have a look at what the data's telling you. Don't just go with this instant gut reaction. But that said, I actually think that your gut reaction is a really good thing to have sometimes, and you've either got it or you don't.
No, I love that. Yeah, I think we can all relate. When I started, I sort of tested a couple of items, things sold, and then I started going really deep way too soon, and then I sort of did a dip. I sort of went shallow, deep, and then realised. Then I got stung, as you do, too soon, and then I went less deep, and now I'm going deeper again, but not too deep. So basically, what I should have done from the start. But it just takes all these lessons, doesn't it? Just to you keep learning your way as you go, don't you? I find.
Well, I sort of agree with you, but I think I've got a game plan, and I haven't detracted from that game plan. It's just that the players within that plan have just moved around a little bit. So I always believed that I would have a strategy that had several product areas. And for me, the ideal is that I've got some products that maybe I can get an okay price, but that they sell lots of them. And so, maybe the margin's not absolutely brilliant. A little bit like there's a couple of people that we know that have that strategy. So in a way, you sort of pile them high and sell them cheap. Is that a good way of putting it?
Yeah.
Okay, I think I think you have to have some things in your portfolio that do that, because it really keeps cash flow healthy. And then there's this middle ground of things that maybe some of them will be replens, maybe some of them won't, but some of them might be quick wins that you think, ooh, I've got the chance to buy so many of those, and they might take 2 or 3 months to sell, but I'll get some half decent margin on them. And then you've got your core products, which are a combination of, well, they really ideally should all be replens, and they should be ones that you get really decent margin on, and you might not sell that many of them, but that you can actually command a better price for them. And those for me are my private label ones, where I've got listings that nobody else can go on because they're unique to me. So I've not got very many of those at the moment, but for me, so it's always about striking that balance. And for me, that works. And I always had that in mind. It's the shuffling around about what's in those categories.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've got some replan items. I started with unique bundles and this, that, and the other. And you know what? They're great, but I've sort of got a bit more ambitious in selling 4 or 5 of them a month, 6, 7. I want more. So the ideas are still there. They've always been there. That's always what I've planned to do. I'm just moving around moving parts of it. Does that make sense?
You're sort of layering things up. Are the private label, is it consistent? Your private label products, are they still selling consistently?
Yep.
Nice.
They are. I've got a couple that I've got one at the moment that I only launched not that long ago, and I've actually experimented. This is the risky me, and also because I've never done it before, I've actually applied quite a robust paid search campaign to it, and I accepted, this is in my own head, that I was happy for it to be a loss leader until maybe January, so that I would actually use the Christmas period to try to build my part up with this product, and the idea of trying to get a bit of position on it, and it's working. So I think it isn't one of these ones. I hear people that say, oh, they put something in and then immediately they're selling 50 or 60, 70, 80, however many a day. Well, mine's been sort of a slower burn than that, but I'm consistently selling 30, 40 of some items.
Right.
So these are not my own label products.
Okay.
They are branded products that I've brought together, and the umbrella of them is my brand. Does that make sense?
Got it. Yeah.
Just to distinguish, I'm not buying mass-produced things from China and sticking the name of my company on them. Not yet, anyway. It's something I want to consider for the future.
So maybe. Bundles, or are they just a couple of items you put together?
Sorry, what was that again, Hayden?
Are they unique bundles, or are they just a couple of items you've put together?
They're unique bundles.
Yeah. Cool.
So the distinction for those that maybe haven't had the benefit of certain individuals' training courses, unique bundle could be branded products that are sitting on the shelf somewhere, but you create added value to it by putting something with it that then makes it unique to you, and that can't be replicated because it's you've done it, you've brought something together. There's so many different examples of that.
For those that haven't heard of that, but yeah, it's just mind-blowing, isn't it? When you've never heard of that and then you hear that that's possible, it's just mind-blowing.
Yes. There's a lot of work, though. I do warn you, if any of you are interested in doing that, you really do need to do your homework quite extensively for that. But I actually find it really exciting, and I probably would have launched more. I just haven't had the time.
Yeah, literally.
Because you've got to do the photography, you've got to do, it's just like, it's exactly the same as private label. You've got to create your listings, you've got to do the due diligence to make sure that you think it can sell, who your competitors are, Do you need to do paid search? It's no different to launching your own label product.
Yeah, I've still got a unique bundle which is in my old unit actually still, and I've got the prototype in a box under my bed. So it never actually got around to being launched yet, but I will do it. But yeah, it is a lot of work. It's definitely a lot of work, but I reckon it will pay off one day. Let's just should we look at a few comments? Let's have a look. Where did we get up to? Yeah, Jed's he's jealous of your storage unit.
Well, I love it. I do. It was a big decision to make, but actually, in reality, once you hit a certain level of product, I think that you really do need to consider going into an industrial unit. I'm very fortunate because I'm in a part of the country where it doesn't cost as much as other parts of the country. So I'm making a comparison. Natalie's down in Bournemouth. I'm in Hull. She tells me that she pays per square foot probably double what I pay here in Hull.
I'll do the same. Yeah.
So I think it's taking that smoke and mirrors one step further. I've got an actual bricks and mortar business address now that isn't my home address, and that it actually really helps. It's sort of again positively reinforcing that you're a professional business. Certainly from receiving pallets. I mean, just if you saw where I live in a ground floor apartment, which there's no access to with cars and things like that. And the first pallet that arrived, oh God, I nearly keeled over. I had to get all this stuff in and trug it through to here, which is at the back of the house. I mean, this probably sounds like familiar territory to people. There comes a point where you're not really saving money. That's the thing that stops people from doing it, is people saying, it's going to cost so much and this, that, and the other. When you actually weigh the odds, I don't know how anybody can pack a pallet load of stuff in a small room. I know I've done it. I had it all down the corridor. I had it all in the living room. It's totally intrusive. And I think it's really important for your peace of mind. That work-life balance is actually to get your business out of your home as quickly as possible. That would be another piece of advice that I would make. I'm sitting watching the telly, and out the corner of my eye, I can see all the boxes that are going to be collected by UPS the next day. So you never actually get away from it. Not that you do anyway, but you can make life a little bit easier, can't you?
Absolutely, yeah. I couldn't ever imagine packing a pallet in my old unit. Never. Way too small. Sure. We'll just do a few questions. If you've got any questions, everyone, just post them in the comments below, by the way. Sean says, how do you find suppliers? Google doesn't always help.
I'll give some trade secrets away, but not all of them. There are, okay. I'll give you an example because it's a dead easy one. One of my VAs found a product in a supermarket last week that I really like, because I said I've got this affinity to a lot of the things I sell, not everything, but I actually particularly like this product. So I contacted the people that make the product, went direct to source, and I said I'd really like to become a supplier for you. And they themselves actually don't supply, they send direct to distributors. So actually only about 10 minutes before I came onto this call, they have very kindly given me a list of all the UK distributors for their products. I think there's probably 3 pages of distributors on there. So I started looking just before, while I was waiting for you. When you made me jump, I was on the phone and Hayden made me jump. I was actually just starting to look at that. So I've got all these suppliers to get in touch with now that won't just sell this one thing. They'll sell a whole load of other things. So that's an example of what you can do.
Okay.
A bit of lateral thinking.
Absolutely. Luke Cowell says, what a lovely, knowledgeable lady. Great insight for Wholesale. Omar says, thanks, Susan. Love it. Smoke and mirrors. And then Omar's got a question, I think. Trademark my private label brand. Helps when you get hijackers. Difficult with Chinese sellers because Amazon can be difficult to help. Hard to enforce legislation in China. Yeah, they don't want to hijack, so that's not really a question. That's cool. Yeah, Luke says he does gut reaction 1,000,000%, 2 months were 90% off gut reaction. See, I find that interesting because I never do. I've actually had a few businesses before Amazon, and I've made some serious mistakes by going off my gut. So I actually completely disagree with doing any business off a gut reaction, unless it's deciding if that business is a passion of yours, if that makes sense. I don't know. That's just mistakes from my past that in business, if that makes sense. So I don't know.
Yeah, well, I suppose it depends on a couple of things, I would say, for that, Hayden. The first thing is whether you can afford to do it. Okay, I mean, certainly the more money that you have available to you, the easier it is to make those what you call gut instinct reactions, and it makes it easier to spend money on something when you've got more of it.
Yeah.
So I think there's an element of that. If I put it down to testing the waters, like I've been doing, I wouldn't have dreamed of doing this to start off with, but I've spent 3 months solidly pursuing OA wherever it went to start off with. And I could only do that because I had a little bit of money that I was prepared to put at it. Now I've done it, I feel that it was a massive learning curve. And if nothing else, I know what I don't want to do now, which is just as important in many respects. So it's, and I think if your gut's worked for you in the past as well, then it can build up a little bit of a false security, can't it? That you think, well, it's worked for me before, so it should work this time. But I think you've got to temper it with knowledge. So I sort of agree with you, but I also just occasionally think you just have to go for it sometimes. But that's me. That's in my nature.
Yeah, I suppose like 20% of it you may think that it's all gut when actually it's experience that you've not realised that it's actually just experience.
Yeah, you're probably right. But I can promise you that I will never, ever, ever buy any Transformers ever again.
I don't know what they are.
Yeah.
Ned says great advice, Susan. So that's nice.
Thank you,
mate. I'm not sure who that is, but someone's enjoying it. Omar says, I have some listings I wanted to replicate them.
Because my listings he's talking about. So I'm reasonably transparent about what I do. I just think, well, you won't be able to, mate.
Here we go. Would a GS1 barcode be needed for unique bundles? It would, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. When you bring several items of a brand together, even if all you're doing is say you're bringing, without it being unique in any way, say you're buying 3 different shower gels off the shelf of the same make. So I don't know, let's just think of a Sanex.
Yeah.
Sanex has got several different flavors. You might decide that you want to put 3 or 4 different flavors together. As soon as you do that, you have to look for a unique barcode, because unless the company themselves have done it and registered it under that understanding, so that Sanex has said, right, we're quite happy that we've got 4 of these flavors and we're going to put them all under one barcode. You have a problem because you've got 4 different barcodes. So the only way that you can actually sell them like that is to create your own barcode. Now that then creates the barcode for most of the listings that we all use. Somebody has had to do that to get that on there. And then you can jump on it as you see fit because the barcode's already been generated. However, if you want to make it unique to you, you need to put something other than just the shower gels in. You need to put something that makes it only yours. You might want to, I don't know, sell a bathtub with it. You make the bathtub. So I don't know, what a strange thing to jump into my head, but you know what I'm saying. Or it has to be something that you've made, you've created, you've generated. So I can't think immediately that something that would go with a bath thing. I'm just trying to think of something that would be all right. So you spent hours sewing a bath cap that looks like something out of, I don't know, the Little House on the Prairie, and you bring a whole load of products, shower gels together with a bath hat that you've actually made, that maybe, I don't know, it's got a message across it like stay calm and keep clean or something like that, then that becomes a unique bundle. And even though you're using branded products, you've got something that can't be replicated in there. Does that help?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it helped me. I'm sure it's helped.
Yeah, well, that's we have been a professional marketer. That's sort of the way my mind thinks anyway. So I'm really just playing to my strengths in that respect. Is coming up with ideas.
Yeah,
I don't lack the ideas. I just lack the time and to a certain extent the money to actually spend all my time on that. I'm sort of being a pragmatist. I'm just trying to do maybe one a month, one every 6 weeks.
Okay. Sean says, I want to buy a warehouse, not rent. So getting a third unit on my land after this Q4, hopefully be bigger next year. Oh, cool. Yeah, it wasn't a question, but well done, Sean. Awesome.
Okay. Interesting. Why does he want to buy it? Just out of curiosity.
Sean, why do you want to buy it?
See it as an investment. You see it as an investment.
Yeah, we'll see what he says. Callum says, where do you see arbitrage in the next 3 years? Do you feel Amazon is moving to remove it and favour wholesale and private label?
I'm not sure if I'm the best person to ask that of, because I don't think that I've got a track record. This is all, my business is built very, very quickly. And so whilst I'm doing extremely well, I don't feel that I've got perhaps some of the gravitas of experience that there are many of my peers that could draw upon that. I know from my perspective, I would suggest that if I were Amazon, I would want to lock people into having more choice. And the only way that Amazon can do that is by allowing us to continue to find the products for them. So I feel that, and also if you look at the way that it's going in America, it's actually very much. So what I believe, I remember being very interested in this, is that Amazon had dispensed with quite a lot of their suppliers, the suppliers that perhaps the smaller suppliers, and what they'd done is they'd rationalized and they'd ended up with a load of sort of really big suppliers, which was quite devastating for a lot of businesses. And what they appeared to do this for was to give more ownership to the third party sellers. So rather than Amazon buying everything and posting it, they were actually saying, you know what, we'll stick with these really big ones because we've got a vested interest in doing so. But what we'll do is we'll let the third party sellers actually have a lot more of the opportunities. Now, I suggest that we probably will follow suit, but I don't see any evidence of that yet. I mean, as a third party seller, I can only, and then we'll all have experienced this. I don't know if any of us have gone into competition with Amazon on the same listing, but just occasionally you think that they're definitely not working in my interests. But we have to hope that maybe, just maybe, there will still be arbitrage, but it will become more professional. I think that's probably where I think that what they're trying to do is they're trying to get rid of the part-timers and the hobbyists, and actually build the relationships with professional people. I keep coming back to that word, professional. I think it's an important word.
Okay. Yeah, I don't
know if that answers the question. So that's just my own thoughts.
Okay, cool. Denise says, I find the margins in wholesale very low and you can only make decent money on volume. Is it the same for you? Good question.
Depends on the products. I have to say that I was aiming for and succeeded in a 20% gross margin when I started. Now, making the distinction, what I mean by gross is that was after the cost of goods had been taken out, but before my fixed costs and the likes were removed. So things like prepping and paying for a unit, or actually in the early days buying coffee so that I could, or keeping the heating on or what have you. So 20% for me seemed like a not unreasonable investment. I was doing that through Wholesale. I've improved my odds by putting more online arbitrage into the mix, and I do have some wholesale items that make really good margins. So, but I sort of know where you're coming from, Cindy. I was so excited to get an okay. There'll be an element of deja vu on this one, Hayden. I was so excited to get quite a while ago, before last Christmas. I'll tell you what it is, because it's not something that everybody's going to do. I decided that I didn't want to do toys. I think it was my experience with the Transformers at an early stage that put me off them. But also because I don't have kids, and I've never had kids, so I don't really know what's good with toys and things. But what I did feel was that for the Christmas period, that I would look at perfumes, because I thought, well, you know, the hazmat, and that could work well for me and everything, because I've been approved on the hazmat program. So I approached several massive wholesalers, and I got an account with one of them, and I was so excited, and they sent me their list, and they had over 3,000 items on them. You know, after 3 or 4 days of training through and doing the due diligence and looking at Buybot Pro and looking at this and that, you know, I was so gutted. I just couldn't afford to buy the products. I did test the waters. I bought about 15 of what appeared to be a mistake. I went to the top 100 on Amazon, which of course are the big fast movers, and that Amazon is usually on, so that, you know, the prices are really low. But I did test with those, and I actually tested them at a loss, just to experience and see what it was like, and what have you. You're right. So that experience was a bad experience. I couldn't get the margins to sell them where I wanted them to be. I did sell them on eBay. I did okay with eBay. They were slow moving though on eBay, interestingly. So I think you've got to just stick with it and know that the right wholesaler is just around the corner, and even then you might find that 50% of the stuff that they're selling is not going to be the right price for you. You only really need to find 4 or 5 decent selling items, and then you move on. You go to another wholesaler, find another 4 or 5 decent items. Yeah. Okay. Does that help?
I think so. I have to speak for the others, obviously. Yeah, it does, I'm sure. Do you always have to advertise for unique bundles? I think Cindy means pay per click, obviously.
Yeah, okay. If you do your homework, you could be in a fortunate position that something that you put on as a unique bundle suddenly gets in the spotlight, and it perpetuates it. So no, you don't have to. It's a bit of an unknown fact, because you start off with a 0 on your unique bundle. You're nowhere. You don't have a ranking, and there's all sorts of things that help push you up through that particular algorithm to get you into a position where you're selling on a regular basis. So homework is one of them. Finding out who your competitors are. You need to understand about keywords and how they will impact, and looking for niches in keywords and things like that. So if you know how to do all of that, it certainly helps. But advertising cuts the corners. Okay, so
yeah,
I mean, I just to give you this product I launched. It's been 8 weeks now, I think, about 8 weeks. I started with 0, and then I was so delighted when I sold my first item. A lot of my items have sold through the advertising route, so I've had to pay to get that. But I've gone from being a 0, and my lowest point has been at 13,000 in a extremely competitive category. So and it's sort of gradually building, and I've got 2 reviews on the product now, unprompted. I haven't done anything about that. So I've sold sufficient now that they're starting, and it's starting that slow journey. I have to add, this is an extremely competitive market that I've chosen to put this product in, which I suppose I could have chosen something less competitive, but I really like the product. So again, this is the passionate Susan coming in. Is that I really like this, and I want people to buy it, and I'm invested in it. So advertising has helped. There has to be a point at which I start to withdraw the advertising, and but it's a watch this space at the moment. I'm testing again. I've put in for a lightning deal. I've never done one of those before because I haven't really had products that have lent themselves. So I've got the slot. The week of, it's the 21st of December to the 27th of December. So one of those days, my product will become a lightning deal, and I'm really interested to see if it's going to really impact. So I think you've just got to try these things and then learn from them. And so I think if you're going to be launching a new product, I think the rule of thumb is that you need to build an audience, and you can do that more effectively and faster with paid search.
Okay. We've got a few more questions, but I wanted to sort of wrap it up in an hour. I wanted to have an hour's, not another hour.
But then you didn't realise how much I talk.
No, I didn't realise. But anyway, no, I wanted to just wrap it up with a few more questions. So I'm sure if you're happy to, you could go in.
Yeah, I'm certainly happy, and anything I can do, if anything I say has a positive impact on somebody's business, then I feel that that's absolutely brilliant. So.
I mean, you could always, if you wanted to, you're welcome to look at the remaining comments that didn't get answered if you want. Other than that, I'm sure they can post somewhere. But I just wanted to say before we sort of wrap things up, what are your plans for the next sort of 5 years? And also, have you got any? This is the second question. Have you got any serious, advice that you want to give others that are pretty new to Amazon? Maybe in their first year, just like me.
Okay. Well, I will reiterate something that I said to start off with. I said, smoke and mirrors, fair enough. Start as you mean to go on. Have those goals. And they might be quite modest goals, or they might be really ambitious goals. But whatever they are, you need to consign them to something because it makes them real.
Yeah.
And then you can test it. You can go through, and then you can go, oh, after a month, you know what? I sold more than I thought I was going to sell this month. So maybe what I do is I adjust my goals a little bit, for the financial ones especially. But you need to have other goals as well, I think. So my goal this year, actually for 2021, was to pan EU register. Now, this I decided. Like when I started, I decided that I'd like to try to sell in Europe. And of course, then the whole Brexit thing and what have you. I started it sooner because the Amazon had a promotion on that would give you your first year free. So I actually registered, and I'm going through the pan EU process as we speak. So I'm anticipating. My worst case scenario was I thought, well, they're paying for it for the first year, so it gives me a year to put those processes in place to actually make it work. And of course, it's been a bit of a movable goalpost, hasn't it? But I'm so glad that I started. I've been doing it. It's been about 6 months now. And I'm so glad I started it when I did, because of course now everybody's faced this terrible prospect of not having any European sales. And I'm still going on at the moment. And I'm going to be well positioned to there's going to be an awful lot less competition for me. Even if you all decided to start doing it today, you're going to have to be 6 months down the line. So that gives me a competitive advantage. So there's that. Next year, I want to trademark. I said that to you already. I'm looking at my longer term goals will be to have my prep center managed. I'm not planning on it becoming a prep center for anybody other than me, really. But I want that to be managed by somebody. So the people that I'm actually training, ultimately, I hope that they will take it on as their own business. And I want to divest myself of everything that involves me having to be somewhere, so that I can actually enjoy the high life somewhere warm, sipping pina coladas and doing a bit of shopping to maintain my income. That's the longer term goal.
Okay, cool. Any final words of advice for everyone that's starting out?
set your stall out. I can't stress that enough.
Okay.
Even when it looks like the stall is so far away, just take some time, especially if you're in your early stages and you've got the luxury of time, is actually plan to have that time to spend planning what you want to do with your business. And I have to say that I still do that. I don't create a plan that then just sits there. It's a working document and it gets changed according to the climate. And I'm in the process of doing that again for this year. So my process is like to think about it. I reflect on it. I think, what do I want to do? I want to do this. I want to do that. I try some things, and then I absolutely nail it down. And then I'm doing my financial forecasting. I've even done some product analysis and think about the types of products that I want to sell and how I'm going to do that and where am I going to get the help. So do that. Set out your stall. Set yourself stretch targets. I see there's a particular individual that's on that will be applauding me for bringing that in. Don't be comfy. Set what seems impossible targets, but then most importantly is break them down into bite-sized portions. So this is not rocket science. I can't take any credit for this, but if you want to turn over £1 million, which is a target that I've set myself. I don't know. I'm not telling you how long I think it's going to take me, but I'm not quite there yet. But I can't just go straight in and think, right, I'm going to, this is what I want to do. I have to break it down into bite-sized chunks that I can actually tackle on a day-to-day basis. So I have a jokey thing with my husband that I call my million pound business day. And I've hit the £1 million business day a few times. In other words, there's certain things that have to happen in order for me to hit that £1 million business. And so I do that every day. Not a £1 million business day today, or it is, and what can I do to make it a £1 million business day today or tomorrow? Very, very short term, which is what most of us are. We don't tend to think like, so that's, I hope, would incentivize you. So think about what you want to do, plan it, write it down, and then break it down into bite-sized portions and think very, very short term about the long term, about what you can do today. Good example, Hayden, we've had that discussion, I've seen you post it, is to look at your pricing strategy. It would be brilliant if I had the time to look at every single thing I sell every day. I've got past that stage now. I do have a repricer, and every now and then it's quite useful to revisit your repricing. I was doing it in product areas.
Yeah.
So I was making sure that at least once a month, or if you've got less products to sell, you could do it more often. Is like you can make a decision about it. Am I making the target this month? Do I need to throw some products under the bus, so that I can actually get the cash flow in to buy more, sustainable products or those sorts of things. So those are decisions that you can make daily that will help you hit your targets for next year, the year after, 5 years, however long it takes.
Fantastic. Well, Susan, thanks so much for coming on. It's been lovely. Everyone's really enjoyed it. And
thank you for having me.
That's all right. I'm sure we'll talk again in the near future on this. Obviously, we'll talk again in the near future. Just mean on the group as well. Yeah, and best of luck with everything. Thanks for giving everyone such great content as well.
Well, thank you. I hope it's been useful. If there are any key questions that people think that I haven't answered and that anybody wants to reach out to me, I'll do my best. If it's something that you think is useful, I can always ask Hayden just to share the feedback if it's something that didn't come up.
Absolutely. Okay, awesome. Thanks, everyone, and have an amazing evening. Thanks, Susan.
Thank you. I was going to get me tea.
Yeah,
Speak to you soon. Right, bye.